Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen nabiyyina Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. So we've had some questions coming in. The email address is info@masjideumar.org.uk. Yeah. So you can continue to send emails. Iqbal Bhai is taking a screenshot. I don't know if screenshotting is a verb. So he's taking a screenshot and he's sending them on. So I will go through them, not in any specific order. So please don't be offended if you send your email first and I go through in different orders. So we're just going to go through them, inshallah. And those who wish to ask questions, I think the sisters are already here. So papers will be, and possibly pens as well, will be sent to you for you to write your questions. I guess we could start off with a nice positive one. Assalamu alaikum. My personal observation seems to be that senior scholars exude strength, are contagiously happy, optimistic and driven. Is this roughly accurate? SubhanAllah, you could not have hit the nail on the head, brother, whoever you are. If so, how do lay folk go about gaining these traits in their lives, such as prescribed supplications, actions? Or would you say this is more of a byproduct blessing of the seeker of knowledge? Well, in short, obviously once you connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you trust in Him, and you leave your affairs to Him, then the burden on your shoulders becomes less. Once you accept your fate, once you accept what He's given you, then what is there to be upset about? Alhamdulillah, every morning you're getting up, you have life, you have ability. So I would say, yes, I'm more inclined towards to say that it is a byproduct or a blessing of those people who have committed their lives to Allah. And as a consequence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them that serenity and peacefulness on the earth. How do we gain that? I guess by adopting their practices, trying to imitate them as to the best of our ability. And inshallah, through that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give tawfiq as well. My second question is that, is a Hifz student considered a seeker of knowledge? Not necessarily by the absolute definition of the term. Hifz obviously is knowledge in a sense, but it's a case of memorizing. And when a person memorizes, he may not necessarily understand what it is that he's actually memorizing. So of course, what you put inside a vessel will save that vessel, will have an effect on that vessel. But will it be considered as a seeker of knowledge? Not in the technical definition of the term. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When someone texts, is it wajib to respond? And does it have to be in text form or is verbal enough? Obviously, when somebody gives you salam, then by saying it, if you're not going to reply to the person, then saying wa alaikum salam is sufficient. But if you're going to reply back to the person, then it's etiquette that it is included in the message. Obviously, we do a lot of AA and in things and ASA and AW, FW and all these acronyms which I never understand. So whenever someone says to me AA, I reply back RAC. So I don't know whether he's talking about breakdown cover or he's actually giving me salam. So it doesn't hurt too much to say Assalamu alaikum. So we can say that. I know we're on to SMHs and whether I know LOL is like old school, but all these little acronyms that people like to do, and I'm a bit old fashioned. If you want to write something, then write it properly, man. Learn English. Assalamu alaikum. Which would be more rewarding, going for Hajj or Umrah or helping the starving Muslims, saving lives? Well, I guess if Hajj is fard, then Hajj has to be performed. If a person is, remember we have this habit of kind of grading acts and sort of having the or situation. I won't mention the brother's name because he sat here. So when the menu was put to us, do we want doner meat or pizza or Turkish? And the brother said, what are you on about? Why can't we have doner meat and pizza and Turkish? SubhanAllah. Man of knowledge. So therefore, why do we have to sort of say, shall I do this or this? Yeah. Shall I, let's do both. Let's strive to do both. So, I'm not going to start giving a pecking order. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives order to impact. So those which are fard are fard, those which are wajib, and those which are sunnah muakkada. Military action. Assalamu alaikum. Is it fard upon Muslim countries to take military action against Israel? So interesting question. I think this shows our lack of political awareness about how the world works. We're pretty much so now an ummah in symbolism. and not in reality anymore. We haven't been an ummah in reality for a long time. You see, for example, there are Muslims in India, Muslims in Pakistan, and there's been wars between India and Pakistan. Bangladesh was called East Pakistan until it saw independence from Pakistan. So there's been wars against Bangladesh and Pakistan. When the Rohingya Muslims wanted to leave Burma and they wanted to go towards Bangladesh, Bangladesh was one of the first countries that put up their borders and said, look, we're not going to take all of you in. Similarly, right now, just a few weeks ago, Afghanistan and Pakistan were exchanging bombs. So that's the reality on the face of it. And sometimes we get caught up in this kind of romanticism of how we can solve all the world's problems because we are this huge group of people. We may be this huge group of people. But the Prophet ﷺ described us as the foam on the sea. Worthless. So let's at least accept those terms. Right now, those countries which are bordering Israel have peace agreements. Egypt has a peace agreement which it has agreed in order to get some land back. Jordan, Lebanon. Most of these countries are not Islamic countries. In fact, there's only 3 countries, if memory serves me properly, that has the word Islamic in their name. Islamic Republic of Pakistan, obviously Afghanistan, and Iran. Islam does not necessarily practice all the laws of the Sharia. Afghanistan is trying. And Iran at the moment is the only one that's in a military capacity through proxies, possibly engaging. So let's be real. And then what's little Mufti Amjad sat here in London going to tell the Egyptian president as to what he should be doing with his armies? What's little Mufti Amjad going to do here in London to tell the Lebanese what they're going to do with their armies? So we don't have a political structure. There is no ummah political structure. It does not exist. So whereas you have something like the NATO, which is a confederate of countries that come together to defend, most likely as a rebuttal to Russia, Muslim countries don't have that. So therefore, these things can happen. So we are more favorable towards nation states. We are more favorable to protect our own rather than do things of this nature. So in short to that answer, who am I to declare whether it is fard upon Muslim countries to take military action? Each has their own legal structures now, each has their own political structures, and therefore they will decide their own. Eventually, inshallah, when there is a Khalif who then resides over, in whatever manner that suits, over all countries, and all countries accept those terms, then I guess it's for him, because he has legal capacity, he has the political capacity to make those kind of decisions. So these can be very nice rhetoric. I can make a nice rhetorical statement to you. I can shake my fist and foam at the mouth and tell you that you all should pick up arms and do this, that, and the other, whatever. But we have to be realistic. We have to take and understand the way things are. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mufsad, if and when Sadaqatul Fitr is given on behalf of a loved one who's alive, is it necessary to inform them, or is that subject to if they're baligh or not? Of course, when you are conducting something on behalf of something which is an act of worship, then they have to make niyyah. There has to be some intention behind it. So yes, one should inform them irrespective of their age. It's amazing, isn't it? Our deen, mashallah, we go from the miraculous, the global political to the mundane. What is the ruling on buying, selling cats? So now that we've solved the Israeli problem, now we're going to sort the cat problem out. So what I'm saying is, look, ajib alhamdulillah, that our deen, caters for so many different things on so many different levels. There's permissibility according to some, there's karaha, but there is permissibility if they're domesticated. Do you have to pay off all debts before going to Umrah? That depends on the people who you owe your debts to. If they are more than happy to delay the payment of those debts, then they can do so. Does mortgage have to be accounted for when calculating zakat? It doesn't necessarily need to be accounted for, but if a person wishes to deduct it from their assets, then they may deduct a year's worth, just the capital, not the interest, from their assets. According to some schools, debts are not deducted. So that's that batch done. I understand that home and building insurance is impermissible. Is there any alternative to home insurance that you are aware of? I've been trying to find a takaful alternative, but nothing in the UK for a residential property. Wa alaikum salam. You're quite right. The standard sort of high street, even though not many of them are on the high street anymore, all are online, all the high street is kind of defunct, isn't it? It's no longer in existence. They all use usurious methods. You know, you pay £100 a month, for example. Over a year, you've paid £1,200. You have a bust mains in the bathroom, your ceiling collapses, and the insurance company pays out 12 grand. So you paid 1,200 and you got 12 grand in return. That is riba. That is riba. You made a £1,200 payment and the insurance company is giving you 12 grand. It's just an exchange, money for money, and that is why insurance is impermissible for that very reason. You get back what you give, then there's obviously some permissibility. But you get more back than what you've given, then obviously that's the problem. There are lots of companies and organizations that are trying, you know, may Allah bless them, they are trying their best to now come up with financial alternatives, whether it's investments. I'm not going to name companies or name names that are trying their very best in order to make that change. We should support, as a Muslim community, we should support them. Sometimes you get a lot of brothers who make that jump, who make that leap and try their very best to make a change, and the community doesn't come on board. I know there was one organization that tried to start an alternative to car insurance. It lasted for a while, and that's it. You know, I know there's been a lot of boycotting going on against, like, for example, say the Coca-Cola brand. And people have tried to come forward with alternatives, but we know that in a month's time, 2 months' time, whoever is boycotting will be back to drinking Coca-Cola. So those brothers who actually went out on a limb and invested and tried to come up with a soft drink company, they're going to be left high and dry because everyone's going to jump back off after a while. So it's just these are the sorts of things that we don't do as a community. We don't support each other to grow. This is what we should be doing, is supporting each other to grow and develop. So I only make comments on organizations that I act as a Sharia sort of advisor, consultant, expert, whatever you want to call it, because then I know the inner workings of that organization. I cannot speak for organizations that I'm looking at from afar, and I've just looked at their documents or their brochure or paraphernalia, so therefore I can't comment. The best way would be is to see who is on that panel, reliable, trustworthy ulama, and engage with them. Salams, I have a condition called irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, and when it's really bad, I constantly release gas every couple 2 to 3 minutes. Do I need to do wudu every time I pass gas, or is there a way around it? There is, this would come under the hukum of ma'dhur or ma'dhura, and when someone comes under the hukum of ma'dhur and ma'dhura, then that particular naqidul wudu, that cause of breaking the wudu, is to a certain extent suspended. What we mean by that is that even if that is taking place, that person's wudu is considered still intact. However, if something else happens, he busts his nose, he falls down, cuts his knee, then obviously his wudu will break, but that won't be a cause for his wudu breaking. I know there's another question that I'll share as well, but this is a point that's related to it, that the Sharia only applies upon a person to the best of their ability. Now, if they're physically, like for example, we know that we have to wash 4 body parts, or wash 3 and wipe 1 body part. But if somebody's got limbs amputated, how can he wash his arms? So what happens there? Obviously, the hukam of washing arms is removed from him. So therefore, one can only act in a capacity that they have the ability to do. So what one would do is consult ulama and then take it from there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum salam. Sheikh, what is the ruling on decorating our houses a little for Ramadan and Eid, etc.? It usually includes banners, posters, some balloons, and the like. I would say in present day and age, especially with sort of like, the Christmas thing and New Year's Day and everything, I don't think there's any harm, especially for children. I know we use children as an excuse all the time, don't we? We say at the beginning of Ramadan, I'm not going to eat any savories. And then day one in Ramadan, we say, look, for the kids, man, it's not right, is it? We can make these decisions because we've got taqwa. But the kids are kids at the end of the day. And then obviously when the food comes and the poor kid doesn't even get a chance to smell the samosa and it's already all downside in the stomach. And then we have to say, look, show respect to elders. There is, I would say, without trying to be too controversial, that, there's no harm in doing so, as long as it's kept within means. If you can recycle last year's, obviously, you don't have to use Ramadan is Ramadan, isn't it? Eid is Eid, as long as you don't have 2023 or whatever written on it. I guess you can recycle the same things again, so it's cost effective and we save the planet as well. So I would say there's no harm in it, especially if you've got children. It reminds them of Ramadan. It focuses them, it gives them some element of happiness. We don't necessarily celebrate Ramadan, so that's why I'm a little bit we have to be careful that we don't commercialize Ramadan because there's going to be an element of that. People just want to make money out of it. Ramadan is a time of austerity, it's a time of reflection, it's a time of pondering, not necessarily a time of celebration. Eid obviously is a time of celebration, so I can understand for Eid, one can do something of that nature. I would like to ask the following question. If a child is conceived and born out of marriage with a non-Muslim, should the child be accepted as a sibling, and what are the inheritance laws? Obviously, all these questions that I'm answering is based from an Islamic perspective. I think it's always good to put these little disclaimers because you know what's going to happen. A few of these questions, there's going to be a little memo or a little short made out of it, and it'll be widespread. Scholar declares jihad on British Muslims or something like that, and that's it. I'm done for. So let me just say now, maybe I should have said this at the beginning, is that obviously these are queries Muslims are asking regarding their own faith, and they want a faith perspective answer on that. Hence the reason why we are giving these answers. So if a person, obviously according to Islam, inheritance, there's a legal system. And inheritance is only permitted for those who are legally considered those persons' children. And that means it has to be bil nikah. There has to be a nikah between the person and the man and his wife, or the woman and her husband, in order for those children to be considered as children who can now inherit. So the way the Sharia looks at this is that the only thing that can, because remember, without nikah, without sounding too crude, obviously there's young people in the audience, without nikah, there's no guarantee that that person is the father of that child. Not necessarily saying that obviously women will behave in a certain way if they're not married, but the implication is obviously there that a woman who preserves herself and does not allow access to any man until she marries him clearly shows the fitrat and nature of that person. And therefore, one can absolutely be sure that the woman is this child's mother, so the child can inherit from the mother, but the child will not inherit from the father. However, the father still has responsibilities to the child in order to maintain and provide. I would like to ask the following question. What should you do if you have feelings of being bisexual? So when it comes to any type of sexual interest, the Sharia is quite strict. I've already answered in the question previous that the only permissibility, I get easily distracted. At school, I used to get so easily distracted. The teacher said, Amjad, concentrate over here. And I'd be looking out the window. So as soon as someone talks, I just get, I get zoned out. So, thank you. So, when it comes to, what was the question? Bisexuality. When it comes to bisexuality, any type of interest in a sexual way has to be via nikah. Whether it's self-inflicted sexual satisfaction, whether it's with a woman that you're not married to, whether it's with a man, whether it's any of these things, the Sharia only permits that the man and the woman are married. So, before people sort of say, homophobic and all the rest of it, the Sharia does not permit a man and a woman to engage in that way unless there is nikah. That is the only thing which the Sharia has permitted. So therefore, the Sharia still will consider all of these other behaviors as sinful. And it is for people who follow a moral code to be told what is sinful. The government might tell us what is legal. It is legal for somebody over the age of 18 years old to drink alcohol. We would still say it is sinful. Even though it's legal, we would say it is sinful. it is legal to eat pork at any age in this country. We cannot say that, the government hasn't said that eating pork is illegal. However, we will say it is sinful. So in the same way as we would say eating pork is sinful, in the same way as we would say drinking alcohol is sinful, as in the same way we would say having an adulterous relationship is sinful, we would also say that any relationship of a physical, sexual nature without nikah is sinful. The Muslims, or those who follow any religion for that matter, who follow a moral code, do not need to be dictated to by secular laws. Okay, that's our moral code. That has been our moral code for 1400 years. And that's our moral code that we choose to follow, not under any duress or compulsion. That's our own freedom of choice. That's our own freedom of deciding to do that particular act. Now, what we tend to get then is this conflation, or, they don't fit in with British society and this and that and the other and all the rest of it, just to cause a ruckus, just to cause an issue. These matters for our moral behavior is our responsibility. If it does not impact or affect on anybody else, then why should it be of concern to anybody else? That does not mean in any way, shape or form that we are judgmental against people. Before people say, homophobia or this, that and the other, whatever, well, Muslims don't necessarily feel that a non-Muslim is going to be successful in the hereafter. But does that impact in the way we engage with that person? Or does that impact in the way we fulfill their rights or their responsibilities? So there's a lot of conflation, there's a lot of confusion, and it's intentional in order to kind of make out that, this is an issue, backward or this or that, and all these kind of derogatory terms made to do that. So I hope I answered that to the best of my ability and it was clear. Iqbal Bhai is not stopping, man. You're going to have to buy me some more. You're going to have to buy me some more space on iCloud. I think that's done. Do check them, Iqbal Bhai, that if I've missed something, then I think I've done all of those. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you please clarify the following query? Question 1. Whilst being a multi-day traveler from one town, city, country to another, can one combine salahs if they feel they will most likely miss the next salah time due to either lack of wudu facility, time on the plane, train, etc.? Or is it better to perform qada if salah time was missed, lapsed due to lack of wudu, appropriate place to pray? I know many people who combine salahs state that if Allah has made it easy for a traveler, then why miss the salah intentionally? I'm not sure if Allah has made it easy for the traveler. I'm sure this is based on hadith. So it is the Prophet ﷺ that's made life easy. In a session a couple of days back, I explained how each legal school is formed. So when we accept a particular legal school that we're born in, whether it's Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki, Hanbali, then we follow the legal school. We don't understand the legal theory, we don't understand the legal philosophy, we don't understand any of that. Because we don't understand it, because that's not our expertise, that's not what we trained to become. We've trained to become a dentist, or we've trained to become a teacher, or we've trained to become a whatever. That's been our profession. So it's the fuqaha, the ulama that have trained to become these experts in law. So it's they are the ones who will then share that with us. So therefore, to then start to say, okay, there's this narration, what do we know? What is the power of that narration? What's the quality of that narration? Is it khabr wahid? And I explained this just a few days ago, in fact, maybe a couple of days, maybe this morning. And a khabr al-wahid cannot qualify a verse of the Quran. A verse of the Quran is mutawatir. And you see, mashallah, when you come in on the little timetable there, the ayat is quoted, that salah is at a fixed time. Salah is at a fixed time. Okay, can we pray Asr now? No, why not? Because Asr time hasn't come in. Why can't we pray Asr now? Because there's a verse of Quran which tells us we can't pray Asr now. Is there a narration which supports the combining of prayers? Yes, there is. But what is the manner in which the combination is taking place? The Ahnaf will say that all this is delaying the Dhuhr till the end time and bring the Asr until its beginning time, and that's how you're praying them together. You're still praying Zuhr in its time, you're still praying Asr in its time, but it's on the borders of both. Or you're delaying Maghrib until its end time and you're bringing Isha until its beginning time, and again they're on both on the borders. So that's our school's position, so that's what we adopt. Can women lead obligatory Eid Taraweeh prayers? There's been no school position on that. There is some discussion on a Jama'ah. So there's impermissibility apart from some conversation on Jama'ah of Nawafil. And even that is considered as makruh tahrimi. Is the salah valid? Yes, but it is with karaha. And we had this conversation, the chap that I had an interview with a few days back, and about when it's a ritual act of worship, we don't look at the social impact of a ritual act of worship. A ritual act of worship we value in terms of its reward. Now, what is more rewarding? Not what is it that I feel like doing, but what is more rewarding. So when we're told that if you pray in this manner, it is more rewarding for you, even though it doesn't really fit well with our kind of mindset or our soul, then that is what is more rewarding for us. It's a ritual act. So therefore, this is the distinction that we need to draw from there. That's correct. Sorry, yeah, good clarification. That's assuming obviously only women are praying in that Jama'ah. 100%. Again, it's makruh tahrimi, close to haram, even in that circumstances, with women only. Crowdfunding for deceased parents. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. People are now crowdfunding for their parents' sadaqah jariyah, asking for contributions from family, friends, and the wider community. Example, they are collecting 5,000 for a masjid that has a Qāḍī hasana of 700,000, or digging a well for 1,750 in an Indian subcontinent. Please, can you shed some light on this? What does the Sharia say about this? There's nothing wrong in encouraging people to help you in setting up projects which you make as a sadaqah jariyah. There's nothing wrong in it coming together. So there's fabiha. There's nothing to be concerned about. Hajj bilkul sahi. How can one change his destiny, qadr, taqdeer? A couple are trying for a baby, but are unfortunately having no luck. Any guidance or supplication, dua, which are recommended? Dua obviously makes a difference. We supplicate, make dua, we ask Allah for those things. But we also need to understand that this is something which is predestination, and there's an element of accepting one's predestination as well. There's nothing wrong in asking dua, there's nothing wrong in striving for change, but there's also in accepting that as well. And I think sometimes because we have life exactly the way we want it, then we just want to perfect it. There's so many orphans that have no parents. I work in a very small extent anyway with a number of people who try to get support for to adopt children, especially now with the Muslims emigrating across here. They're looking for adoption. Young children that are coming, Muslim children, and there's no people to adopt. So they're now being placed with non-Muslim parents. So maybe that's the hikmah. That for some people, Allah SWT does not give children, and then He brings the other children from another country here that need that. Allahu A'lam. So it's not just that, but again, it's that kind of, my child. So in a way, it's a kind of an extension of us, isn't it? We become as a possession. Remember we said that, the hubbu shahwat fi nisa wal banin. So, this becomes like, my children, my sons, ownership. In reality, how long is your son your son? How long is your daughter your daughter? 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. He's going his own way. And then you try saying something to him, he'll tell you what for. So at the end of the day, that's it. And the girl gets married. She's now with a husband. So it's a bit of a myth, isn't it? My children, I'm going to hold on to these for the rest of my life. They go, you reach a point in your life, a bit like where I am right now, and you kind of feel like, you're a spare tool. Yeah, because there was a time when you needed the children to carry them to the doctors, take them to school, bring them back home, teach them Quran, teach them this, and they're growing up and they're growing. Now they don't need you. They've got their own jobs, they've got their own car, they're running their own life. And you sort of kind of think, it's all gone, it's all changed. So, it's really about focusing what khair you can do. Whether that is through children, whether it's through your own children, whether it's through the children of the ummah that have, unfortunately, their parents have died or been killed, and they now have no parents, and they're coming here as refugees, and they need families, loving families, caring families to look after them. That is itself a fardi kifaya, because they need upbringing, they need parents. So that, so yes, one can make dua to change their taqdeer, absolutely, but also in a way one can also embrace and accept their taqdeer and look at alternative ways of fulfilling their need, but also at the same time fulfilling the children's needs. Assalamu alaikum. If one washes a paintbrush with their hands and the paintbrush is made from pig, so there is a transfer of impurity, how many times do they have to wash their hands in the Hanafi madhab to make it pure again? Do they also need to wash it with earth like the Shafi madhab? So the pig brush bristles are not going to transfer onto a person's hand. So I think, we have to just be a little bit careful that we don't, obviously we don't know the circumstances of the person. Many people, when it comes to najasat, do sometimes suffer from OCD as well. So therefore they can become a little bit, waham comes in, and careful. The only way that you can resolve that is through some counseling, where you start to unpack what is causing the OCD and you find alternative ways to manage it. I don't think there's a way of completely finishing it, but at least there's a way of managing it. Assalamu alaikum. My question is, in business account, when we get interest, what do we do? Can we give it to non-Muslim employees? One can't benefit from interest. So if you were to give it to your non-Muslim employees, then you're benefiting from it because they're working for you. And if 10% of their wage is interest, then 10% of what they do for you is coming from interest sources. So interest has to be given away with no benefit, no worldly benefit. You cannot take benefit at all from it, rather than having some benefit from it. So we're getting a couple of moon sighting questions, mashallah. I ignored one earlier as well. What is it with moon sighting, mashallah? Assalamu alaikum. Question on sighting the hilal and the division in celebrating Eid. So we'll come to moon sighting. Now that Qari Saab's here, mashallah, we're all good. It's his favorite topic. Assalamu alaikum. I have two questions that have been bothering me for a while. Inshallah, you can help guide me. What is the correct reason for not participating in birthdays? I'm worried I will offend family members. When it comes to birthdays, obviously there's nothing within our legacy or tradition to do with birthdays. It's not something that we would celebrate. It's something that, you see, the Muslims weren't really a celebratory type of people, okay? We just worked. We just strived for the hereafter. We didn't partay all the time. But now, obviously, there's more partying coming in to our kind of way of life as well, because we want to enjoy life. Yeah? We can't wait 60 years and enjoy life in the hereafter. Who's going to wait 60 years, 70 years and then enjoy life? When we discuss about, alhamdulillah, our table spread, our dastakhan, and Allah blesses us with a beautiful dastakhan every evening. May Allah bless the brothers who provide it. Ameen. And then we see, the Prophet ﷺ just having like rutab, wet dates, or dry dates and water, or just some milk or some flour or whatever, very difficult, constrained circumstances. So that's one thing that needs to be understood. So, secondly, as we have celebrations, Eid, and as we move on with life, one thing is not to celebrate is the lack of, the closer we're getting to death. That's something that we should be a little bit careful about. Having said all of that, if somebody reflects and thinks, oh, alhamdulillah, that's another year done, recognizes it. Sometimes, we're a bit tight, aren't we, with giving gifts and things like that. So if that serves as a reminder for someone to share love amongst family members, but doesn't try to aim it for that day and shares, then I would say there's some element of, okayness to it. I'm not saying that let's all go and start buying birthday gifts and things like that. What I'm saying is, obviously, what we don't want to do is start putting constraints in areas where there's some element of openness. So if this is out of love, if one is sharing gifts out of love with family members, then there's no. When we're talking about birthday parties, then that's a little different ballgame altogether. You go there, there's going to be music, there's going to be, this, that, it's going to get a bit wacky, there's going to be mixed, our weddings are mixed now, mashallah. So, a birthday party is blatantly going to be mixed. So, we've lost the boundaries of what is permitted and impermissible. So at home, you want to recognize the achievement of your 5-year-old. Well done, son. You made it another year. There you go. I'm happy for you. Just another 60 of these to go, and you'll be all right. Just take each year as it comes, son. Sometimes life will get difficult, and your son's looking at you because he's only 5 years old, like, why is dad giving me this deep conversation? Why doesn't he just give me something nice? So, there is that, and obviously children then sometimes feel a little bit, that they're not getting anything. They feel that the parents don't love them. So there's got to be a lot of encouragement. There's got to be a lot of conversation. There's got to be a lot of talking. I was recently told that when praying in Jamaat, we should not be reciting as we should directly be following the Imam. I wanted to ask, how does this work for Dhuhr and Asr? Do we still not recite even though the Imam is silent? And a short follow-up, is it okay to be verbal in Sajda and Tashahud? The Hanafi position is such that the qira'ah of the Imam is the qira'ah of the Muqtadi. That's the Hanafi's position. So I'll give you the Hanafi's position. Other madhab will say, La salata illa bi Fatihatul Kitab, that you have to pray Surah Al-Fatiha. If you don't pray Surah Al-Fatiha, then your salah is invalid. So that's the other schools. Obviously, I'm assuming this person from that question is of a Hanafi school. So therefore, the Hanafi position is that when the Imam is reciting, you are just listening. Now the question arises, yes, but you can't hear him. So how are you listening? So that has been a point of contention even amongst the Hanafi fuqaha, where they've debated that what about silent prayer? However, I'm just going to give you the muftabihi. The muftabihi is that we remain silent. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is the ruling on the 15 degrees and the 18 degrees for prayer, and are both valid in its own ways? So, another question is, what is the ruling on the difference of fasting days? I say, let's get them both in. I was wondering, double punch. So, Isha and Fajr, and also the Eid times. So, we'll come back to that. We can talk about maybe the Salah times. So, the way it is understood is that astronomical twilight, Shafaq Abyad, correlates to 18 degrees. Okay, that's the position that's adopted. Remember, back in the day, people used to go out and look at the horizon. We don't go out to look at the horizon. We've now replaced the visual phenomenon with an astronomical phenomenon. So all our timetables are based on data which comes from HMNAO or whichever other web surf or whatever it comes from, which is based on predictions, algorithms that predict when the sun's going to set. So we don't know the sun's going to set at whatever the time is on that time. We're just predicting it. Similarly, we would have timetables in every masjid. 40 years from now, they're going to tell you what time the sun is going to set. 100 years from now, they'll tell you when the sun is going to set. So it's prediction, it's algorithms. Very accurate algorithms, minute. So we know, and it's valid from a fiqh basis to use these methods in order to determine prayer times. So when we're determining it, obviously Imam Saab's view, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmahullah's view is the disappearance of the Abyad, which we correlate to 18 degrees. And the Sahibain and also the other madhab is 15 degrees, which we correlate, which is not 15 degrees, is Ahmar, which we correlate to 15 degrees. So what we find is that if you have the Wifaq al-Ulama app, Wifaq al-Ulama Zindabad. Come on, man. Which has all this information in there. So rather than getting too bogged down with technicalities, download the app. The information is there. If you go onto the little sort of settings cog, click on there, there'll be a little bit of an explanation of Isha time, Fajr time, full details there. And if you go to their website, there'll be even more details there, inshallah. We'll get to Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. What is the ruling on the difference of fasting days for the sighting of Ramadan as well as for Eid al-Adha? Good point. On the Fajr time, see, that's the reason why Qāḍī Sahib is here. We only adopt the 18 degrees because of the astronomical side. Remember the sun on both sides. One is the setting of the sun, which is what I focused on, but I didn't talk about the Subha Sadiq, when the dawn, true dawn takes place. That position is based on 18 degrees, and that's where we get that figure from. Good point. Good thing someone's paying attention. I think that's that batch done. Is that batch done? Yeah, I think that's that batch done. 5, what was there? Assalamu alaikum. A female relative has married a Sikh man. What is the correct approach to keeping ties with her? For example, we have Eid in a couple of days and it's my family's turn to host all our relatives. Should I invite her and her partner for Eid? I am concerned it will not send the right message to our younger nieces and nephews if they see their auntie married to a non-Muslim and everyone still maintaining normal family relations with her. On the other hand, we don't want to completely alienate her in the fear that she completely goes astray. From that description, obviously it seems that, again, it's a mixed Eid gathering, so there's issues there straight away, you know. I know it's difficult to keep sort of family away when it's an Eid, but, you know, we should try to minimize. Obviously, women are all, mashallah, dressed up, okay? So, you know, brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws are walking past each other. Women will put, you know, some heavy perfume on. Even the brothers will have some heavy perfume on. And there's all this mixing going on, and it's a jovial time anyway, so people are cracking jokes. You know, you don't know what kind of relationship that man is having with his wife. He might have had a bit of a ding-dong. He's having a chat in the kitchen. His sister-in-law's hearing him out. Anything can happen. You have to be very, very careful. I know we've become a little bit blasé and a little bit, come on, stick with the times, brothers. But it's a danger, okay? Zina takes place. I don't know if we're going to get any questions on zina, but I get numerous questions where zina is taking place in our homes, in our society. So let's not be, you know, blind about it. Let's not be naive about it, that it won't happen to us. We're professional. You know, how do we have office affairs? It's the professional people who do them in the office, not the cleaner or something who comes in at night. So you remember the IQ, SQ, and the EQ. You can have an IQ up to, you know, the roof. But if you're spiritually corrupt, it doesn't matter about your IQ. Okay? And if you look in Hollywood, Weinstein fella, and all these people suddenly coming out of abusing their positions and having affairs with women, they're the so-called elite. They've got everything. They can pay for that. They don't even need to take it. They can pay for that. They can, you know, go on an island. What was his name? Epstein, whatever his name was. Right? These are the so-called elite. They're doing it. Human nature is human nature. You can't switch off human nature. So we have to be very careful. So irrespective of inviting mixed couples together, you know, husbands and wives or whatever, you know, I guess the only time is when a parent calls his kids, you know, when you get together at your parents' house. You know, if all your kids live separately and then your mum and dad, for Eid, everyone goes to mum and dad's. But then even then, you know, women should be in one room, men should be in another room. You know, it's something that we have to, you know, dropped our guard on. And we have to be a little bit careful about that. So that issue would not come up then, because the Sikh chap will be sat with the blokes. And the sister, the woman, would be sat with the women. So that issue won't come up. We shouldn't necessarily ostracize, you know, people who adopt certain things, because as you said there, you don't want to completely detach. So that's something to be concerned about. However, there are no doubt effects on children. So if you can somehow, you know, form a barrier between the children and the parent, you know, the elder adults, then that would be more appropriate. So don't detach them from all the adults and all the rest of it, but the children is going to, because they will, because the, you know, young girl growing up is going to think, well, you know, auntie's married to so-and-so, and you know, why can't I marry whoever I want? You know, why do I? And this is one of the hardest things that people find is, alhamdulillah, they can keep their house running really well. You know, wife, mashallah, baparda, she's reciting Quran, she's religious, salah, whatever. He gets his children on that, mashallah. He sends them to a maktab, sends them to a madrasa, they're on that. But then they meet their cousins when they start getting up to 7, 8, 9 years old. And their cousins say, your dad's really strict. We can do this, we can do that, we can do this. And, you know, the kids come home and they think, yeah, maybe dad is a bit strict. And you start losing your children, not because of the society that they're looking at, but they're looking at their own cousins at the end of the day. They're looking at their own cousin brothers, and, you know, the girls are looking at their own cousin. Oh, you know, dad doesn't even let us go out, but, you know, Chachu lets the girls go here, or Mamu lets his girls go there, and they're staying out at a friend's house. They're staying over at Rebecca's, and, you know, Mamu's letting them go, and dad doesn't even let us, you know, as soon as it gets to Maghrib time, he wants us at home. And then his authority is undermined. So it is difficult. But for children, I would say there has to be an element of going into khalwa, where you kind of detach a little bit to safeguard their iman. You as an adult can continue to engage, and so you should as an adult, because hopefully as an adult, especially if your iman and deen is in the right place, you're not going to be impacted as much. But children are easily influenced. Children are they're going through their sort of years of understanding who they are. And it happens too often, unfortunately. I think that's all the screenshots done, Iqbal, but just double check that I've answered all of them. Assalamu alaikum. What is your view on Sufism? What advice do you give someone considering thinking the Sufi path with a sheikh? We have within our tradition what is called tazkiyatun nafs. That exists within our tradition, has existed within our tradition since the time of the Prophet ﷺ. That's why you saw the nature of the Prophet ﷺ, the nature of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, the nature of Sayyidina Umar, and also the nature of Sayyidina Uthman and Sayyidina Ali. And then we started to see sort of kingdoms coming in. If you saw the dress of these companions, you would not think that they were Amir al-Mu'mineen. You would not think that they were Khalifat Rasulullah. You would not. When the delegations used to come and they used to see Sayyidina Abu Bakr, sleeping in the masjid, or Sayyidina Umar reclining against a wall, and they would say that this is, our Amir al-Mu'mineen. They said, this is your king. He is the one that the Persians are frightened of. He is the one the Romans are frightened of. Him, that man, that old man leaning with his stick with patched clothes against a wall. So they had it inherently in them. Okay, we now obviously live in a world where our ego has been let loose a little bit. So there is that within tazkiyatun nafs. However, there's a lot of charlatans in that world, unfortunately. Because you see, when a person says that or claims he's a faqih, then you can understand if he's a faqih based on the answers he gives you. Because you think, okay, mashallah, this brother has some ilm. But when a person says he is kamil, yani he's kamil, yani his ruh has reached a high maqam. There's no way of assessing that, is there? You just have to take it, what he's saying. And he's not going to walk on water for you. Okay? He's not going to do like, pull a coin from behind your ear. So he's going to do tricks for you to prove he's kamil. You just have to go by what people say, that he looks like a buzurg. He sits in a masjid a lot. He does a lot of dhikr. There's no way of assessing it. Because there's no zahir to that. The only way you can see is like the ulama will say, that person who is close to and acts upon the sunnah in all circumstances, that is kamil. It's not like what the person claims or how long he sits in muraqabah or how much tahleels he does or tahmeeds or tasbih. So yes, there is a place for tazkiyat al-nafs. That's the point I'm making. But trying to find the right person and, that will be a little bit of a task because it is challenging. Especially in present day and age, but it's very important that we are reflecting on that side. And this was again the talk that we had, which was the IQ, the EQ, and the SQ. We've also got to spiritually reach a high status as well. So I cannot necessarily, maybe you can speak to Qāḍī Sahib afterwards, who can recommend certain ulama that you can take. I'll leave that to his good judgment. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Mufti. What is the Islamic view on transgender? The schools and the media, along with 9E Muslims. What's 9E Muslims? Okay, 9, E Muslims. What is that? Somebody just sent that message. Yeah. What does it mean, 9E Muslims? Yeah, ask the brother. Unless it was a typo. Yeah. So anyway, whatever 9E Muslims are, who are not aware, want to change their gender. If obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet ﷺ has forbidden, for example, for women to pluck their eyebrows, if he's forbidden to put a gap in your teeth, if he's forbidden to have tattoos placed on the skin, then what do you think the hukum is when a person wants to physically remove parts of their anatomy and become a completely different gender? So I think the answer in that is pretty obvious. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. At work, what is the best way to do wudu without putting your feet in the sink? Can we use disabled toilet rooms? No, I think you should train to be an MMA fighter or learn Jeet Kune Do or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and then, drop kick your foot into the water. Why are you scared for, man? Wear hoofs. Yeah, if you wear hoofs, then all you got to do is wipe on the hoofs, is a problem solved. This is especially if you're going to a service station and you go in there and you can get away with washing your face because you think, oh, the guy's been driving for 4 hours from London, he's going back to Bradford. I can understand why he's putting water on his face. He's washing his arms, not sure why he's washing his arms for, I don't know. Then obviously you take your shoe off and a sock off and he's looking at you and then you put your foot in the sink and he's thinking like, what the heck is this guy doing? Right? And then unfortunately, because Ramadan has been good, we can't get close to the foot anymore. John, do me a favor, do you mind washing my foot for me? And obviously you've got to press the tap each time as well, so you're stuck now because the big head's in the way and can't reach the tap. The foot's now, the thumb's stuck in the big toe's stuck in the tap now, and they're trying to dance around, and people are walking in now, filming it, putting it up on YouTube. So yeah, wear hoofs, saves all the embarrassment. And then all you have to do is wipe on your hoofs, problem solved. And if you wear sandals as well, you don't even have to take your feet out from your hoofs because there's enough of the hoof that will get wiped. If you've got some slippers on, wipe over the top of it and it's done. You don't need to take them off and you can get away with it. That would be the best solution. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I watch a lot of sport, football, Arsenal, Liverpool or cricket. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I don't even think I should answer that, man. Are these football teams then? Arsenal, Liverpool, are they football teams? Or they're like basketball teams or something like that? Whoever this person is, obviously he's a glory supporter, isn't it? Because Arsenal have not won anything for centuries, right? Suddenly, alhamdulillah, they're like top of the Premier League or something. Everybody becomes an Arsenal supporter. Liverpool to Liverpool, chalo. Or cricket. I get quite emotional when my team loses. Is anything wrong with that? Okay, don't get too emotional, but obviously if you have an affiliation to something, you have an affiliation to your country, you have an affiliation to your city, you have an affiliation to your ethnicity, you have an affiliation. It's natural because this is human nature. Okay, we're humans at the end of the day. So, you get a little bit upset. But the thing is, if you're Arsenal Liverpool supporter, don't you get upset all the time? Or you'd be like emotionally distressed at this stage. You have to support a real football team. What we're planning tonight. Okay, assalamu alaikum. Okay, that's the same question. With regards to the female relative marrying a Sikh, if the function is segregated, which it will be as the women and men will be in two separate houses, should we still invite this couple to our house despite them being in a state of zina? We know, for example, that the Prophet ﷺ would encourage the companions to maintain blood ties with their mushrik family members. Even when a mushrika was coming to visit one of the sahabiyat, then again the Prophet ﷺ permitted her to do so. So we keep blood ties, we don't break blood ties. Now obviously, if the chap is not a blood tie, you could not invite him if you want, and just invite the woman. That's a point you could make, so then you're not breaking a blood tie, but at the same time you're making a position. The thing is, you see, I don't know what the background is to this family, but clearly, she's not really understood kind of Islamic principles or whatever for her to be in this situation. But what we always do is that we try to give reactive fiqh, but we don't give proactive tarbiyah, and that's the problem is, and then it just looks like the Sharia is just bad news all the time. You can't do that. Okay, you're doing something, you can't do that. You can't do that. Yeah, everything we do, you're telling us you can't do that. Yeah, because you decided not to live by these principles. Now everything we're going to say is you can't do that. But if you live by these principles, say, yeah, you can do that. And you can do that, and you can do that. When you give free rein to your nafs to do as it wants, when it wants, then obviously Islam is trying to restrict that free rein to the nafs. It's trying to bring it under submission to Allah. That's what Islam is, to submit to Allah. So yes, there's going to be a lot of naysaying. And then it just becomes difficult and awkward. And to be doing it in a function, it's better to have that conversation. Go see that person and say, look, this is very difficult for us. The decision you have made, which you think is only impacting you, it doesn't impact on the whole family. How do you want us now to deal with this? Oh, you're going to have to accept me. But why? Why should we have to accept you? You know, why can't you also accept us? It's a two-way street. So there has to be a grown-up, mature conversation, not necessarily on Eid day. You know, we have enough Royal Rumble in those old days. Remember Royal Rumble? You know, you have enough Royal Rumble on Eid day as it is to want to add an extra thing to the Eid, you know, parcel. You know, try to keep it civil. First time people get together, there's always going to be some person who's going to give an opinion and someone's going to disagree with that opinion. You know, say, oh, so when did you celebrate Eid then? Oh, I celebrate, oh, right, you know, that's it, mashallah. That's it. Eid discussion all evening now. Everyone's arguing, fighting, whatever. No one is even looking at the food. You try to make it civil, so you pass time, so at least, you know, that blood tie is there. Because you've got to understand what is the maqsad for us getting together. It's to maintain Silatul Rahim, is to maintain that blood tie. We just want to make sure that it's civil and it's respectful and whatever. We all choose our pathways. We all choose our life. You know, even in the hand, look at the fingers are so different. You could be born from the same mother, born from the same father, raised in the same house, but you choose different paths. And that's in houses, even in the houses of ulama. So it's not as though, you know, oh, we want religious enough. This is even in the houses of ulama. It's just the way it is. So all you're doing is trying to maintain some level of decorum and respect between the family. You can agree to disagree and take own pathways. But if a person has decided that Islam is not for them, you know, we don't know what the situation of this person is. They may have decided Islam is not for them. We don't know that. So it's those conversations that need to be had first, rather than try to fix the problem. During wudu, when you wash your feet, if you dry one foot with a towel before washing the other so that you don't spill water on the floor, does this nullify your wudu? No, it doesn't. One can do that. Is it allowed to support Manchester United as the club's nickname is the Red Devils? Some people say it's makruh tahrimi or even haram. Anyway, we'll ignore that question. Assalamu alaikum. I'm asking on behalf of a dear sister. She has suffered from severe obsessive compulsive disorder for nearly 25 years, tried every dua, wazifa, NHS, help possible. She's now trying to pray. Prior, she was not in the right state of mind, but is unable to due to constantly repeating ghusl and wudu, and even after that, she cries, forgets, restarts until someone watches her. It is impossible for her to pray without someone watching and guiding her, but continues zikr now and is in her senses, but has continuous confusion. She has other physical health issues too. Question, what is her accountability with proof? What can she do? Please don't say pray like other muftis. Okay, there goes that answer out. I'm going to scrap that answer. She knows that, but doesn't know how to. When her OCD is high, she screams and is out of control and can't control her thoughts and repetition. Her mental illness is at its highest. Please do dua. The question respond to, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not going to say what the other muftis say, but all I will say is this. We are obliged to complete the acts which are being made compulsory upon us to our capacity. To our capacity, what I said earlier. Now, I've not seen the sister, so I cannot determine what her capacity is. Obviously, this sister who is written on her behalf has a good idea of what her capacity is. So she will determine from her capacity what she's capable of doing. Obviously, if there's some issue with her tahara, then we've already given the ma'zur mas'ala, so she can look at that ma'zur mas'ala. If she doesn't have her senses, which seems to be suggesting, then obviously then the hukm of salah is not upon her. Okay, that has been lifted from her. So it's, you know, I'm only speaking from a distance just by those 7, 8, 10 sentences. That sister will be in a better position. Maybe she can get an alima to go with her to help her in making that decision. But whatever her capacity is, whatever her capability is, she will do to the best of her ability. That is all she is accountable for. Salam, please make my email anonymous as I don't want the people to start attacking me for telling the truth. There are several questions I need to ask regarding the duties of a husband and a father. Are men these days still have to follow the Quran and Sunnah when it comes to provide for their family? And if they don't, then are they still considering themselves men or the member of the LGBTQ community? If a man provides for you on and off, when he is in good mood, he provides, and when he's angry, he doesn't, but physically, mentally, and verbally abuses family, including his kids and wife, do we still have to show respect to him? If a man is the head of the house, then why women have to pay for everything from her own money and basic stuff? If you are staying married to a man who has all the above qualities for the sake of your kids, are we still going to be married to him if we enter Jannah? If a man is angry, he can swear at your mother and calls names to your dead father. Can women have the same right? A man who prays in the front row and reads all his prayers on time is considered a pious man, even though he is hated by his family for mistreating them. Should a woman seek divorce from a man who commits zina of looking at other women while his wife is walking with him? Should a woman provide her husband with the paternity test when he says he doesn't believe that his kids are his when angry, and who should pay for it? Are these the qualities of the men who are going to fight against the Dajjal? Are these men recognized as men, or they feel like they are in the wrong bodies? I'm not calling them women because they can't going through that women go through. Quite heavy, man. Please don't take it as hate speech against men, as I genuinely don't hate men, but people who are pretending to be men but doesn't want to fulfill their duties. My daughter is 16 and she has told me she is not going to marry anyone as all men are just cowards. So she rather stay with her friends and provide for herself. Please pay attention to our new generation and make them the true Muslims, as the last generation have failed miserably. I have a son who also thinks that a man should provide for his family, but I don't know for how long he would think the same. The main reason for the email was to make them understand that being a man is a responsibility. And if you cannot handle the responsibilities, then don't get married or have kids. Because if you're relying on the government to provide for your family, then there's going to be so many broken families who are fed up with their husbands for not acting like a man. I will be listening to your answers, so please take time to answer a few questions. Okay, so obviously a very emotional and charged up question. Clearly she feels, again, we can only go by the question. Clearly she feels that her husband is not fulfilling his duties. So from an Islamic perspective, yes, a husband has to fulfill his duties. This is why we say that we need a legal structure, we need a political structure for Muslims, right? But in the UK, where we are, this is by choice. We're not obliged, okay, to apply the Sharia in the UK. So what we're obliged in the UK is what the law says, the English law. That's what we're obliged. We're not obliged by UK law to pray 5 times a day. We choose to do that based on our own moral code. So obviously the way this woman has described this man, either he himself has anger issues or he's got some issues himself. He's abusive. So it's obvious, and I know the sister knows that. That's why it sounds like she's just having a go, because obviously she knows that this is not what a religious man should be doing. We all know that. And religiousness is not just measured by whether you're in the first saf or not. Obviously, taking care of your wife and taking care of your children is a responsibility. In fact, in a lecture a couple of sessions ago, I made it quite clear that we should be worried about not necessarily the people we meet outside, but we should be worried about those who are under our due care. Reason being is they're not going to speak up against us. Okay? Your friends and people outside will speak up against you. You do something, he'll tell you that was bang out of order, you shouldn't have done that. But your wife, if she feels she can't speak, she'll stay quiet. The children, if they feel they can't speak, they'll just stay quiet. But they won't leave it at that on the day of judgment. They will collect. They will collect. So that's why, we're not supposed to be, or when I say men are not supposed to be dictators in their home. Sometimes when a man thinks that, I have authority, that doesn't make you a dictator. A weak man becomes a dictator. Kings in the time of the Prophet ﷺ were dictators. The people respected them and worked for them out of fear, but they plotted against them. They plotted against them, and whenever the opportunity rose, they killed them. So son would replace father. Whereas with the Prophet ﷺ, they were catching his saliva when he was spitting it on the floor. So did they respect the Prophet ﷺ out of fear? No. They respected the Prophet ﷺ out of love. So should our wives fear us or should they love us? And if a woman is only, listening to us because we're going to get physical or we're aggressive or we raise our voice all the time, then what kind of life are we giving those women? For 25, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, all she does is despise and hate you. That's the only thought which is going through her mind. Same with the children. And they're just wishing that as soon as I hit 16, as soon as I hit 18, I am out. I don't want to see that guy ever again. And then fathers and sons are separate. And the father will still be stubborn in these circumstances. He still won't lower himself down. Yeah, even bachcha, this is my child. I used to hold this guy in my lap. If he ever held his child in his lap. You know, when the Prophet ﷺ used to kiss his children, when that companion mentions that I have X number of children, I think he said 10 or something. I've never kissed any of them ever. This is rahmah, the Prophet ﷺ says. Rahmah is something which Allah bestows upon whoever. You know, if people say, oh, my children shouldn't, jump on me, or they shouldn't, they should respect me. The Prophet ﷺ used to get on all fours and let his grandson ride him like a horse. Even when, I think it was Umama, one of his granddaughter, she came to him crawling whilst he's giving khutbah. So he came down from the mimbar and picked her up and he says, these are a fitna, they're a trial. But his love was so much that he went and picked her up. Didn't ignore her, kicked her away. I'm giving a khutbah here. Because his love was there, his heart was soft. He had a soft heart. And that's why he was loved. That's why when, he passed away, nobody could accept that he passed away, because how are we supposed to live without the Prophet ﷺ? That love has gone. That constant care. At one point, he nudged a companion with his staff. Afterwards, he apologized to him. He gave him the staff. He says, you nudge me. So he says, yes, I will. Raise your garment. So he raised his garment. Instead of nudging him, he kissed his torso. He goes, I just wanted to kiss your torso. What kind of man, when he mentions to the lady who sat crying at the grave, that be patient, and she says, Da'ani, go away, what do you know what I'm going through? When she goes, the first thing she comments, he had no guards. He had no guards. Why is the Prophet ﷺ going to have guards when everyone loves him? Why is he going to have guards? When Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, who was martyred, there were no guards. He was only martyred because there were no guards. He could turn his back on his companions, and yet none of them would plot against him. Even when he moved, I think it was Sayyidina Khalid ibn Walid was related to him through his mother. Even when he moved his maqam, his position, his status as a general, Sayyidina Khalid ibn Walid had no gripes, no bad blood. Why? Because of the love. Because Sayyidina Umar has love for him. And that's gone. And there has to be love and contentment in the house. You see, many young girls will reach out to complete strangers on social media. Many young girls will reach out to complete, strangers on social media. And that guy will say to her, oh, come meet me at this train station and we'll go and we'll elope together and all this bakwas. And he could be a guy like 30, 40 years older than her who's taking advantage of her. But what is she seeking? Love. She wants love. That's all our children seek. Why is it that our lads would prefer to be on the street? Because the boys give him love. The boys give him, they're his family. They will cover his back. They will look out for him. They won't walk away when he's in a fight. They will stand toe to toe and protect him. So why is it that our children then are seeking love from outside of our homes? And then we say, oh, our society is broken. Kids are off it. It's this country. Well, you decided to come to this country. And nobody put a chain on a ball attached to your ankle that you can't leave this country. What if it was down to you, brother? What was down to you, the fact that you were made Amir of this house and this house has failed because you're the Amir? Could that not be the reason? You're quick to blame them, even though you are the Amir of the house. And even if people don't listen, cajole, love, come back, people live in constrained times. Shouting, screaming, getting physical doesn't work. Okay? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I hope I've given significant time to this question. It is obviously an issue. This is not an isolated issue. That's the reason why I gave it significant time. I do get questions like this quite a lot. So it's important that it's addressed. And it's important that we as men take that responsibility, because like I said, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, you can pile as many salahs as you want. You can pile as many fasts as you want. You can pile as many zakat as you want. But if you've done an injustice against your wife, if you've done an injustice against your children, it's all going to go. It's all going to go. So when you go home and you buy that rose for your wife that you've always said you're going to buy, but bought it last minute because it was £3.50. Or some hadiyah, then sisters, if you're listening, you make dua for me. Because they're only doing it because I told them. They ain't doing it properly. Yeah, they're supposed to be love in the house. Husband and wife should be looking at each other with love, with care. The children should see and say, SubhanAllah, look at mom and dad. Yeah, they're still looking into each other's eyes. So they want to get married. Have you noticed that you have arranged marriage and what's the other one called? Love marriage. What's the opposite of love? Hate marriage. So arranged marriage must be hate marriage. See the terminology. One is zina and it's called love marriage. So beautiful, isn't it? I always give such a nice word. So one is zina and it's called love marriage. One is arranged, which is done according to Sharia, and it's called the opposite of love, which is hate. So if we can demonstrate to our children that there's love in this marriage, there's fun in this marriage, there's masti in this marriage, there's candles, rose petals. When they see all of that, then they'll say, I wanna get married. Because it's beautiful looking at mom and dad, they're like 50 or 60 or 70, and look at the love that they have for each other. Not that they don't even want to look at each other and he just commands as soon as he comes in, roti. I've been sat here for 33 seconds, 34, 35, and still no food on the table. And that poor woman's been running around all day with the kids and whatever. Now she's trying to, serve the master that's arrived. Again, look in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. He would stitch his own clothes. He would milk his own goat. He would go shopping himself. He never asked anything from anybody. People did his khidmah, don't get me wrong. At any opportunity they would do his khidmah. But he would not ask from them. So this is what we've got to try to do as men. If we are men, as the sisters are challenging us, is to be real men. And a real man is a nice, cuddly pussycat at home. And he's a lion outside. Yeah, he's a lion outside. Okay? Because he shows love and tenderness. The Sharia is there. He makes sure that that is stipulated and the rules and regulations are there, so it's understood that we make mashwara. That's the other thing as well. Very rarely do we make mashwara in the house. The man just makes unilateral decisions. That's not how the Sharia is supposed to be. What the man is supposed to do is hear everybody's views. Even his baligh children, even his non-baligh children. We're thinking of going to Pakistan. We're thinking of going to India. We're thinking of doing this. What do you think? Dad, this, that, and the other. Okay, what do you think? Dad, what do you think? What do you think? He hears everybody much. Now he gives jawabat back to their mashwara. Yeah, I know you're saying you don't want to go because it's too hot, but we're going to go around April time when it's not too hot. What do you think? Yeah, actually, yeah. So he gets purchase. He gets purchase. Everybody's on board now with this idea. Not afterwards when they're going to say, oh no, he never listens to us, I don't even want to go to India. Why is he sending us to India for? Probably he's going to get you married. That's why we're going there for, When they don't, instead if they had that open conversation, there'd be no little secret party meetings in other rooms, text message, I know we have the fam group, but then the kids have got their own. So they go in the kids group meeting, where? Sister's room. What time? 10 minutes. No parents, exclamation mark. So then they have their own little private conversation in there. So then now you're getting firqa. Where's the unity? Where's the unity gone? We want to unify the ummah. Allahu Akbar kabira. But unify your own house first. Once you unify your own house, then unify your street. Then unify your city. Then unify your country. Aista, aista. And then inshallah we'll give you the title of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And we'll sit you on the chair in Masjid Nabawi and we say, Bhai, we're ready. Where are you sending us, brother? So let's get real. Let's get real. Let's understand the reality. What we have authority over, we try to make a change. May Allah SWT give us strength. Assalamu alaikum. Can we buy government bonds of UK? No. Can we buy bonds of Pakistan? I've not looked into the bonds of Pakistan, but I'm pretty sure there's also interest bearing in that area as well. I know that the Pakistan is not free from interest, which is why I said, even though it's referred to as the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, there are still many laws in Pakistan that are not Islamic. All we see is, our brothers in Afghanistan that are trying their very best to establish some level of Sharia. So, that's all that exists. You haven't sent any more? Let me see if Iqbal sent anything else. Sorry, let me just get that one, then I can give it back to you here. Sorry. Yeah. So women can pray behind the men at the masjid. Did I say that? But should there be a barrier between them at the masjid, and what are the rules or requirements? And was there a barrier in the masjid of the time of the Prophet ﷺ? So we do get these kind of questions that, what was the situation in the time of the Prophet ﷺ? And they're interesting questions. I understand why people give those, because what they're saying is that, we should be connecting with the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And absolutely we should. But bear this in mind as well, that dogs used to wander in and out of Masjid Nabawi. Okay? Bear this in mind that people used to wear shoes in Masjid Nabawi. They didn't remove the shoes all the time. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ has actually encouraged people to keep their shoes on, because he says that the Jewish community remove their shoes when they pray. We should pray with our shoes on. Obviously, when there's no najasat, then in a salah, what he does is that he takes his shoes off. So all the Sahaba take their shoes off. So he says, Jibreel ﷺ came to tell me that there's some najasat on my shoe. Why did you take yours off for? The Imam. So therefore, the masjid was completely different. Completely different. Society was completely different. It was mentioned, for example, that the worst saf for the men is the saf at the end, and the worst saf for women is the first saf. Because the men at the back can look between their legs at the women behind, and the women in the first saf are having little sneaky peeks at the men in the front. We find that not so long after the Prophet ﷺ passed, there were now rulings brought that we should stop ladies coming to the masjid because there was a fitna rising. And the answer that was given was that if the Prophet ﷺ was alive now, he would do the same. So people say, yeah, but what about the time of the Prophet ﷺ? Yeah, but in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran wasn't put together as a book. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, we didn't do Jama'ah of Taraweeh. So we follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the sunnah of Khulafa Rashidin. Notice how their, I won't say innovations, but how their new acts are called sunnah. They're not called bid'ah. They're called sunnah. So we cannot say the Quran being put together is a bid'ah, because they were done within the time of the golden period. So therefore, I know there's this conversation I've heard in several quarters about ladies coming to the masjid. I would say this with regards to that is there should be facilities available in masjids for women. There should be. Okay? Should we encourage women to come? That's a different matter. That's a different matter, because from our school's position, the best place for a woman to pray is in a home. But should there be facilities? And the reason why I say there should be facilities, because years ago, I'm not really good as a shopper. My poor wife, she just leaves me at home. So I'm not really good. I don't even do my own shopping. My kids do my shopping. Alhamdulillah, Allah bless them. So I don't like shopping. I get sort of like psychologically, my brain, little thing goes off, little thing pops. I can't wait in queues. Like I think, why am I waiting in a queue for? So I just can't deal with that. So I have to just stay at home, and the family realize that, okay, he's not well. Just send him back to the car. So they just say, oh, you want to go back to the car, Dad? So yeah. Come, should we talk? Yeah, take me to the car. We'll put me in the car, and then just put a book in my hand. Everything is normal again. All right? I can't survive. So they know that, and obviously, poor wife tried for nearly 20 odd years. She's given up, mashallah. Allah bless her. So now I don't go. So what we did that time, we're going to Birmingham. My wife doesn't like driving on motorways, so I said, I'll do it, mashallah. Like a soldier that I was. Drove down to Birmingham. Obviously, when women shop, mashallah, they're sharp. So obviously, and obviously it was for my daughter's wedding, so I let him off as well a little bit. Normally I'd be, we've done 86 hours of shopping, can't we go back to Bradford? So they were going, let's go here, let's go there, let's go there. And obviously Salah times are coming in. Zuhur came in, Asr came in. Now I'm okay. I just walked into our masjids and I prayed. I asked, is there a place for sisters to pray? No. So I had to go back to the wife. I said, you can't pray salah. So she goes, what do? Shall I pray in the car? I says, you can't pray in the car. She goes, shall I pray on the street? I said, you can't pray on the street. So shall I not pray? I said, no, you have to pray. Bit of a problem, isn't it now? So it's all right when you're in Walthamstow and you live near Walthamstow. That's all right. But let's just say I'd come from Bradford and I was here and I've got no family here. And I'm just doing some whatever and my wife's with me. Where does she pray? Do I go find a shopping mall? Because there's going to be a prayer facility for her to go pray there. Do I go back onto the M1 and keep driving until the first service station comes and ask her to pray there? Where do I take her? I'm just asking you a genuine question. Where do I take her? So there were some masjids, okay, of another inclination that facilitated women. So I had to take her there. Honestly, she prayed a salah there, mashallah, nice, comfortable place, prayed, and she came out. Her farz was done. She felt good. I felt good. Then I said, okay, what are we going to have to eat? So, yes, there should be facilities. That's key. Okay, women go out shopping now, women go here, women go there, they're out of the house. So it may not be that they make it back in time for salah time. So the facility should be there. Should we be encouraging? I think that's something we should not look at, encouraging, because we look at it from, it's a ritual act of worship. Where is the best place for a woman to perform her ritual act of worship? According to the Ahnaf, the best place for a woman to perform a ritual act of worship is in a home. That's a ritual perspective. It's nothing to do with anything else. It's not that, oh yeah, but women are going to restaurants and women are going shopping, women are going here, women are going there. Why are you stopping them for the masjid? We're not. We're saying, are you asking from a religious perspective, what is the best place for her to pray? Then this is the best place for her to pray. That's all we're saying. Okay? That's what we're saying. So that needs to be understood. There was another question or something, wasn't it? Was that? On the women praying, or the manner in which we're praying. So then, obviously, we can't have, same safs in the same vicinity now. We tell sisters, don't apply too much perfume. They will apply too much perfume. Okay, women don't like smelling. Men don't care. We've got a nice sweaty pong coming off us, mentioning no names. Where are the lads? Yeah, we don't care. This is man smell. All right. But obviously, women don't like any little bit of bad smell coming, so there's going to be perfume. So a person is praying salah, he's smelling. What did the Prophet ﷺ describe? He said, this is zina of the nose. Yeah? He said, this is zina of the nose. There's zina of the eyes, there's zina of the nose, there's zina of the ears. Then the private part either confirms it or denies it. But the attraction comes through the senses. The attraction doesn't come from the tool. The tool is just finishing the deal. Yeah? The attraction is coming through the smell, the look, the sound. So if high heels, clippity-clip, or anklets, whatever, all these sorts of things are triggered that they're not in the market for making them for no reason, They are there to serve, to attract men. That's what they're there for. So therefore, we have these issues that we face. So it's got to be a separate area, separate entrances. But then obviously nowadays, every masjid has CCTV. So who has access to that CCTV? Are men watching that CCTV? So when there's women praying, going into sajda, going into ruku, there's men watching that CCTV. So now you've opened another can of worms. So how do you police that? So there's so many issues. So people need to, we always do these risk assessments, don't we? Before you do any work, you're supposed to do a risk assessment. Before you take kids on a trip, you do a risk assessment. Before you do anything, it's got to be a risk assessment. So there has to be some kind of Shari'i risk assessment. Now, what are the risks associated with this? What are the gains associated with this? And logically put it through. And can you find ways and manner to circumvent those? We know masjid not too far from here, the issues that it faced because of, allowing certain doors to open. So that's my kind of general answer in that regard, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti Amjad, sir. Is it okay? Is going to the gym okay when it's used by both men and women? Can you take supplements like steroids and protein as they can change your body? So clearly this brother has seen, mashallah, my figure. So he's admiring the shoulders, the back. Sometimes they call me Silverback. And he's admiring the pecs, and he's admiring the guns. Is it guns? Yeah, so he's thinking, surely this brother's going to the gym. And mashallah, he's also saying that he must be on steroids or something, because you don't get like that naturally. That doesn't just come down due to hard work. So when it comes to the gym, obviously for men, we are permitted to go outside. We are not the ones who are supposed to stay in our homes. Okay, so men are permitted to go outside. We should go to those gyms that obviously aren't usually frequented by females. It's called the raw gyms, the bro gyms. I'm sure you've been to those kind of gyms, okay, where it's just smell of man smell, sweat everywhere, lots of noise, lots of screaming, lots of looking in the mirror, okay, and you know, women tend not to go to those kind of gyms. So if you go to those kind of gyms, you're all right. But there will be times where if you go to a more mainstream type of gym that you may get some women there. But generally speaking, it tends to be low numbers. It obviously depends where you are. So you would try to, you know, we are told as men to lower the gaze. So obviously lower the gaze, look away, move towards somewhere else. So that's what I answer to give to that. Can you use supplements? Yes, obviously you can use natural supplements. Should you use supplements like steroids and all the rest of it? I think, you know, there's that human growth hormone. There's anabolic steroids. There's all these sorts of things that you can take, or as it's referred to in the game as juice. Okay, you can take all these sorts of things. Best thing to, I just know about you, see, because I go to the gym. So best to avoid all of these kind of things. What is a natural supplement? Bismillah, take it, you know, protein. If you need to get your protein up, if you need to do this, casein, all the rest of it, there's nothing wrong in that. But anything which is anabolic, anything of that, you know, that's something that needs to be avoided. And just get down to some hard work, inshallah. Why did Muslims divide? Why did Muslims divide into different sects? Because we all like our own opinion. That's why. Plus the Prophet predicted that this ummah will split into 72, or is it 73? 73 sects. Yeah? 73 sects, all will go to Jahannam except one. And who are those? Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay? So it's the norm. It's been predicted. The death of Uthman was predicted. The Shahada of Uthman was predicted. The fitna that would come after was predicted. All these things. That's why we shouldn't panic, because we had a man in the Prophet ﷺ who was telling us the things that are going to happen. So we as a community should be more ready for it, not in a state of shock, but more prepared for it. That's why we have a prophet, because a prophet tells us what's going to happen in the future with that ilm that Allah SWT shared with him. And therefore we go in that way. We discussed the Shia question upstairs. It's a broad spectrum. Simple to say that those people who believe in Allah, those people who believe in the book as a revealed text, those people who don't disregard, who say that the book hasn't been tampered with, those people who don't consider Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar to be non-Muslim, those people who don't consider them to be fasik. Once that whole, you know, that's the category. If you're not in that group, whatever you claim you are, whatever, you know, however you want to self-identify, because nowadays it's all about self-identification, then that person is considered as a Muslim. So I think we're close to one last question out now. What was it now? 3:20? Nearly 2 hours, mashallah. Need to sleep. Assalamu alaikum. Lovely to meet you yesterday before Tarawih. I can't attend today's session. In the Q&A today after Zohar, could please explain how to pay past years of zakat on a pension? I just discovered that my father had one for around 15 years. I have paid the last 7 years of it. Do I carry on paying all the previous missed years? I've paid around 6.5 grand in zakat for the 7 years. So another 8 grand left to pay. It's matured over time and is worth less before. Yes, you're not required to give the zakat. The zakat requirement is obviously your father. I don't think did he say his father's passed? Okay, you've not said that if your father's passed away. So it's your father's responsibility to clear his zakat. As we were mentioning upstairs about Isali Thawab and also about giving fidya for somebody who's already died, we know that every act of worship requires a niyyah. Every act of worship requires a niyyah. So if we find, for example, that our mother or father did not pray salah, or they did not give their zakat, or they did not fast, then what we try to do as a good son or good daughter is to give fidya after they've passed away. But some will say, because that person hasn't made the niyyah, why should they get reward for it? So that's why we always add the mashiat of Allah. We say, inshallah. Okay, because we don't know, because our father or mother, whoever it was, chose not to pray. When they had capacity to pray, they chose not to pray. Now we're trying to fix it after the event. Is Allah going to accept that? When that person, whilst alive, chose not to pray? Similarly, that person, whilst alive, chose not to fast, and we're now trying to fix it after the event. Will Allah accept that? So that's all we can say is inshallah. Okay, because that person made a stance. We all get that chance to make a stance of whether we're going to pray whilst we're alive or not. And that's the stance that we have made, and we try to obviously speak to our parents and loved ones to try to get them on board as well, so that they don't have to face these difficulties. I think that's the job lot. Just have one last look on the... yeah, alhamdulillah. Oh, mashallah. So, on this topic of moon sighting, right, or moon shining, where do you start? Kind of worms time. So basically, firstly, let's look at it this way. At the moment, what happens, if we look at, say, for example, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, people don't necessarily wait for any moon sighting committee to make a declaration. They just go onto Twitter or go onto social media or go onto some Sky network and see that people are praying Taraweeh, and they make that declaration themselves at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they kind of apply a little bit of pressure on the masjid, and then the masjid decides that, oh, it's going to be Eid tomorrow. Because unfortunately, what we're saying, if we're here for the Jummah Bayan, the democratization of fiqh is no longer the ulama telling the people, it is the people now saying, it must be Eid tomorrow, because, it's Eid in Saudi. Why isn't it Eid tomorrow? Saudi's got Eid tomorrow. What's wrong with you guys? Are you guys, stupid or something? Didn't you watch the news? Are you not following this? Whatever. So that's what's changed. So this is a problem. So that's one thing. So really what each masjid should be doing is each masjid should be going to a moon sighting committee, okay? Looking at what their criteria is. The criteria is that we should be going by our own local sighting. That's the criteria. Pakistan is closer to Saudi Arabia than we are to Saudi Arabia. Pakistan is about 2,500 kilometers away. We are about 4,500 kilometers away. Pakistan don't take Saudi sighting. They go by their own sighting. India doesn't take Saudi sighting. They go by their own sighting. So why are we 4,500 miles on the other side of the planet doing it? It's a question to ask. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the history. I'm sure you've heard the history several times as to how we arrived here. Okay, but we are here now. So we should be going by UK sighting and trying to find the hilal. If we don't find the hilal, then we have one option, is we just go and count to 30 and say, Chalo, it's 30. Count to 30, count to 30. However, we aren't fully confident in the system. Therefore, we need to determine that that hilal which was not sighted, was that not sighted because of unnatural excessive cloud cover because we're an island, or genuinely it could not be sighted. So we go to the nearest Muslim country, which is Morocco, and see do they sight it. This is to determine that is our sighting valid. If they declare it, then we are content with their declaration and we will declare that sighting as well. That is the sound approach after years of studying this topic. I've studied this for over a decade. I've written on it extensively. I've done videos on it extensively. Alhamdulillah, I'm fortunate in that I have a scientific background. Alhamdulillah, I'm fortunate, and I know a few fiqh kitabs as well. Alhamdulillah, I'm fortunate in that I've been through an academic process as well. So I did, using all that knowledge that I've gathered over the years, that's the correct position to adopt. The aim should be that we should move to a local sighting and only a local sighting eventually. So in order to do that, we need all parties on board. We need all parties on board. So that will happen. So for now, the sound position to adopt is we're Muslims in the UK, so we go by UK, because that's where we are, surprisingly. We go by UK, and in the absence of that, we go. But in reality, we, as in Joe Public, are just going by the moon sighting committee. We don't have expertise. Like we don't say, oh, you know what, 15 degrees, I like the number 15, but I don't like the number 18. So I'm going to go with 15 degrees. You can't do that. You've got no expertise to be making that kind of decision. You leave it to the ulama who are making the timetables, who have got expertise in timekeeping, who have got expertise in research in that area. No, we don't take questions from the floor in that manner, sir. Write it on a piece of paper. So, in that regard, that is the best position to adopt. And that, mashallah, is a position I hear that this great masjid adopts. Alhamdulillah. So keep up the good work. Yes, there's going to be a little bit of difficulty. Yes, there's going to be a little bit resistance. Yes, there's going to be a little bit of, oh, what's going on, whatever, this, that, and the other. But we just got to stand firm. The tide will turn. Things will move in the right direction. At least you can then say, alhamdulillah, many of the companions used to say, not that I'm saying it's the same thing here, but I like this example. Many of the companions used to say, oh, we wish that we had accepted Islam in the early days rather than accepting Islam in the late days. At least, alhamdulillah, you are from the leaders in that you adopted this position, not due to the majority, but because you found it to be correct. And that's the way to do it. And yeah, as I said, there's going to be challenges, but those challenges can be dealt with. And keep going, alhamdulillah, it's the right way to do it. As I said, I can sit here and pick holes in the reason why we as a committee, or the committee that I'm part of, don't accept Saudi sightings. The evidence is out there. It's easy to see. I've written a 70 or 60 page, 80 page detailed document on it. Read it. I'm not going to regurgitate it here. There's enough evidence. I adopted the moon sighting committee that followed the Saudi sightings all my life. My family still do to this day. My family is in my parents and siblings. But when the truth is in your face, then the truth is in your face. How can you deny it? So I hope that's covered the moon sighting issue. Yes, it is. You'll find it. So the question is, how is fidya calculated per salah? Is it fixed amount per salah? It is, yes. If you go to Wifaqul Ulama's website, Wifaqul Ulama's website is a fantastic website, if I don't mind saying myself. And if you go there, and there's I think it's under Sadaqatul Fitr or something like that. But if you go there, you'll find it, and there's a detailed researched article there, mashallah, and the details will be in there. The quantity, I think, is £4 that we have fixed. And that is it. Did I answer this question? Yeah, I did answer this. Wa'akhiru that one. Oh, hold on. Jazakallah khairan for answering, Hazrat. Father is still alive, alhamdulillah. I'm just assisting him to pay from his funds, and he's willing and happy to pay, alhamdulillah. See, that's fantastic that his father is still alive and the opportunity to fulfill that before he passes. As he is of old age, he requires assistance in all his daily matters. My question was more around the calculation. Am I doing this correctly? I'm basing some of this on calculation, on sound guesswork, I may add, as a lot of facts I don't have. Yeah, in the absence of yaqeen, in the absence of facts, then we go with ghalib al-dhan. That's the only alternative that we have. Ghalib al-dhan is your most predominant position. Once you've done your research and think this is going to be most accurate, and then you slightly err on the side of caution, and that's the position you give. Why don't the other ulama follow what you have just covered regarding moon sighting? That's a bit of a difficult question for me to answer, because I guess you would have to ask the other ulama. Yes, this question is coming up. Why aren't they? It's not appropriate in a non-scholarly forum to speak of ulama. Obviously, whatever differences there are between the ulama, that's the difference between the ulama. So we should have a level of respect and decorum when we speak of them. It is unfortunate, but sometimes when positions have been ingrained and heels have been dug in, it just takes that little bit longer. So inshallah, with your du'as and with the effort that's made, slowly but surely, there will be some movement over the coming weeks, months and years. But we know now, sometimes with these things, it's a generational change. A lot of our youngsters are far more aware of the concept of moon sighting, the salah times. They're not just going to go see a salah timetable and just blindly accept it. Those days are gone. Okay, they're going to want to know, what's the basis of this? What's the basis of that? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? So those people who just rely on blind obedience, they're going to lose their congregations. And those who don't rely on blind obedience, but actually give dalil and give a position as to why they're saying that, they will get a following. So, inshallah, haqq will prevail. As-sawab will prevail, rather than haqq will prevail. Ameen. One just last thing, and then we're good. Yes, alhamdulillah, wa akhiru da'wana, and alhamdulillah, rabbil